Hi, Rob. We're almost halfway there. We're in the middle of the term.
Can you believe it?
I can. It's absolutely awesome. So today's talk was motivated by us being called in to brainstorm with the teacher to take her content and make it more creative. And while we were sitting there, she was explaining the content and the content and the content. And I thought, where's the 21st century skills?
Yeah.
And we were just sitting there thinking, how do you tell her about all these theorists that we know and without bowling her over and
overwhelming her?
Totally. And I just listened and listened and listened. And then slowly the right answer came to me. And we'll tell you how we kind of fluidly moved through this whole process.
Fabulous. As always. Hey, Helen.
Oh, we did definitely.
So I want to tell you very quickly about the picture I chose for today's slideshow.
Do tell us.
Because I quite liked it. So I thought about our content. Usually, our shopping gets put in a shopping trolley, and that's how we move it around. And I thought, well, the methodology could be different. It's still being moved around. It's still being delivered, our groceries, but now we're using a drone, which is very new and, it's the latest tech.
Absolutely. Amazon dropping your stuff off on your stoop. How cool is that?
Brilliant.
So we know we've got content. Your curriculum, your syllabus is loaded with content. You can see here that is this grade 5s who are looking at Bushman paintings, the sand, the hunter. And then, of course, again, on the other side, the content for grade 6s next term is those European explorers, Galileo, who are Diaz, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have to deliver content. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
And the curriculum's pretty much set in kind of what they want, the topics that need to be covered. Some of it's like the details guideline, but actually it's what we have to deliver.
Totally. And unfortunately, if you're governed by a textbook, then you're even more refined
Totally.
Because they've then decided for you which leader you're going to follow, and there's no freeze. But the syllabus or the curriculum is full of goals, skills, and aims. There's loads of these things about make sure that you develop and apply research skills. Do you analyze information? On the other side, do you explain why events are in the past often inspired differently? So it's about questioning, it's thinking. That's where all those Bloom skills come in.
And that's amazing because that is in our CAPS document, but somewhere between the document and the textbook, that gets lost.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then it's how do you deliver these skills? Because they don't really tell you. They give you all the content, and textbooks give you content. But how do you make it 21st century and bring in all these incredible skills that are supposedly part and parcel?
And actually, when do you have the time to do that, even if you know you should be doing it?
More to the point. And so today we wanted to look at methodology. And when you're looking at methodology, you got to think of, are you going for creative thinking, critical thinking? Are you going problem solving? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to do Paul Torrens with creativity, or a little bit of Sternberg with his triatric ways of thinking, or
thinking maps,
which a lot of schools are using?
Yeah.
7 important creative thinking skills. Of course, they're important.
What about Bloom's?
Well, Bloom is very much part of the curriculum, the skills they mention, all of these remembering, understanding, applying. Where do you start? Do you use Bloom or do you use, another
EBL.
one? Oh, no, this is all about designing and building. What do you do? I mean, do you go for the triatric thing of Gardner? Do you go for the, of Sternberg, or the 8 intelligences of Gardner? What about Brookfield, who talks about questioning assumptions?
It's crazy.
Creative problem solving with old Alex Osborne and Ruth Noller. How can you tell people all of this stuff when they didn't learn it at university and they're not going to know it now?
And they're still trying to deal with the content in the textbook.
And that's besides all the other things. The mother who phoned in because her child's got COVID, and now you've got to sort that one out.
Totally.
So the whole idea of Early Birds was to try and tell people how to teach using skills.
Yeah.
And then, of course, COVID kept us out of the classroom. So we went to Coach in the Class, where we didn't try and teach you how, we tried to show you how.
And in fact, we changed our methodology of how to deliver the content.
Totally. And we're loving it. And so are the people who are using our work.
Totally.
So when I sat with this teacher and I was trying to understand, how was I going to tell her what to do?
Yeah.
I thought, I ran through all these people. Should I tell about Paul Torrens? Should I tell about Sternberg? And I thought, no, she doesn't want to know about any of these people.
Something practical.
We need to keep it simple. And sitting in the classroom in front of me was a whole wall chart full of Edward de Bono's hats, which she
Fabulous.
merely had as a poster.
Yeah.
And I said to her, do you know about Edward de Bono? And she said, yeah, I know a little bit. It's about these hats. Well, actually, it's got very little to do with the hats. And it's about ways of thinking and ways of questioning.
Yeah.
And we want you to question the content.
Yeah.
And so the white hat is all the facts. And we know that you can't have a discussion unless you know the facts. But once you've got the facts, you're able to make judgments and decisions and critical thinking. And you can talk about all the negative aspects of something by looking at the black hat, or all the positive things by looking at the yellow hat. And so in every single lesson, whether it's English, Afrikaans, maths, or science, I would employ that thinking hats, but actually it's not. It's about ways of thinking.
Exactly.
And questioning the information and the content.
And it's developing those different types of thinking in a very sort of conscious way, instead of just going, what do you feel about this? What do you think? It's like we're wearing red hats today, and immediately the children click onto that a concrete thing, even though it's quite abstract thinking.
And you're right, the red hat just sums up everything that the red hat stands for. Instead of saying, I want you to think like there's a red hat we know. If we've introduced it, I would introduce one each week.
Yeah.
And then when your class know it, you can pull the hats out anytime you like. And so how would you use it actually in a classroom? So next term, grade 4s are going to look at good leaders. And of course, yes. And now we've got to look at Nelson Mandela versus Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
So as I was presenting this unit, one day, maybe if I was introducing part 1 of Nelson Mandela, and it was his early days, I would talk about the black hat and some of the negative things that happened to try and draw attention to what was happening with him. Moved into part 2 of Mandela, and I was now looking at how he changed the world. I could look at yellow hat, and I would just go yellow hat.
But what's interesting, you could even do black hat early days with the red hat. How do you think he was feeling at that time?
Of course, very important. Because why did he do the black hat deeds?
Exactly. And then looking at the yellow hat benefits bar, and how do you think how he felt impacted that yellow hat's vibe?
Totally. And you would have begun with the facts, the white hat, because you can't have this debate until you know some facts.
Fabulous. I love this.
So it is wonderful. But when I think of this green hat, I think of a lesson you designed for these European Renaissance explorers, where you were looking at this Galileo and Leonardo. But I loved your lesson on life of a sailor, or on the sailing ships.
Yeah, because I mean, there it was very much about looking at, obviously some people were benefiting, so you had that yellow hat thinking about how exploring benefited us and blah, 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 and then that black hat thinking around those poor sailors that were, those boys, farm boys that were
duped.
Totally, that's the best word. Actually, duped is a fabulous word. Yes, so actually then looking at that green hat was looking at how could we have improved the life of the sailor? Let's redesign the boat.
And that your children loved. Do you remember? Because they added in all sorts of clever ideas that wouldn't make the boat such a hellhole.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you would ask with the red hat, how were they feeling about being, I mean, a lot of them, as you know, were taken when they were drunk, and they suddenly woke up and thought, well, I wish I never drank in my life, because now I'm on board the ship 3 weeks to wherever I'm going. And so what we're really doing is we're questioning assumptions. We are assessing the content that we're taking in, and not just listening to white hat facts.
So once again, we're looking at that positive engagement, sort of making sure that we've got children engaged in what they are doing, interacting with the facts in different ways, looking at perspectives, getting excited about it,
being part of the lesson.
Yeah.
And we know it's not going to be easy, because all great changes are preceded by chaos.
Sure, yes.
And you could stick with your neat lessons that you've got and your rolled off notes that you've already done years ago, or you could change and hit a bit of chaos.
And it's been quite interesting this week going into history classroom, and the children I'm teaching are not quite used to being taught in this way, and it's hard to get them to leave the safety of sit in your seat, everybody quiet, fill in the worksheet kind of thinking, into tell me what you think. Can't be wrong. Tell me what you think.
Yes.
Let's discuss it. And moving into chaos, and they're not sure that it's safe.
A little bit unsafe.
Yeah, even for the children in the class,
Yes.
even though they'd like to be chaotic, they're not sure if it's okay. It's very interesting.
And I think that that's part of life. That's a 21st century skill, is being bold enough to step forward and express your opinion, but having formed that opinion yourself.
Absolutely.
So today was all about methodology and taking your content and teaching it in a meaningful way. And that's really what Coach in the Class are trying to do in the lessons that we create. If you haven't used our lessons, go and get some of the freebies and just get a feel of how we're trying to use the methodology to make it 21st century worth and skills, upskilling your children.
And then, of course, Term 2 stuff will be available at the end of Term 1, and you'll be able to access it then and maybe engage with some of the exciting methodologies that we're using in our material.
We've taken that out for you. We've done the methodology and we've given it with the syllabus content.
Fabulous. Have a great weekend.
See you soon.
Over the hump into the second half of the first term.